very boring, but it's just something that wanted to get off my chest. Taking the last ride that I'll ever take in this car. I'm sure by now everybody knows how much I love this car. 2015 Camaro Z28. I bought it in 2017. At the time, I worked at GM. I lived in Michigan, and I bought it from a dealer in Houston and had it shipped up to me. You know, it was kind of it was my first, adult purchase. It was something that I've been chasing a long time. It was basically a dream. I can remember vividly watching the unveil live at the time. I was in college, and this car is this car is important for a lot of reasons. I did a lot of things in this car. I went a lot of places. It was the first time that, the first time I ever did a track day, first autocross I've ever done. Just lots of firsts in this thing. And I'll also caution you that I don't have any fancy equipment. It's just my cell phone sitting behind the steering wheel. So if you can't hear me or it falls over in the middle of filming this, I apologize. But, I just felt like this being the last time that I should record it and just kind of talk through it. Like I said, whenever this car was unveiled, I was in college. You're going through college and you're struggling, but aside from wanting my dream was always to work at GM and build cars that I love. But I grew up a Camaro guy. I'm a Camaro guy through and through, always have been. But I'd kind of given up hope on them. I hate to say that, but just at the time I didn't really see one that I wanted, and I'd kind of given up and was like, well, one day I'll have a good paying job and, I'll buy a C6 Z06 or something. And then this thing finally came along and I was like, yeah, that's the one that I want. So it's not really... It is, it's obviously something that I wanted really bad, but, going through college, it was also a motivator. Like, I can't get something like that unless I finish what I'm doing and get my degree and everything. So I know that, there's way more important things than material objects or a car or a nice house and stuff like that. But at the same time, stuff like this can be a huge motivator for you. And when I got out of college and I got my job, I moved up north with my girlfriend at the time, now wife. have student loans. You're struggling for a couple of years, and I finally had enough money where I pulled the trigger and I bought one. I had it shipped up to me in Michigan, and I can remember it like it was absolutely yesterday, what it felt like to hear that car start up for the first time. Feel like all that hard work had paid off. So, I basically, you get your dream car. Like, as a car guy, what else is there to do after that other than, enjoy it, right? And I did exactly that. I did, it wasn't one of those things where I was like, oh my God, I want to, not drive it in the rain, or I didn't modify it, but, not touch it or anything like that. It wasn't but a few months later I was drilling holes in it to, put a tow hook on it so I could go to the track, and it actually took me like the better part of a year to finally work up the courage to go to a track day for the first time. And, like you can't really explain it other than it was everything that you imagine it would be as far as a car goes. There's a lot of people that review it and, oh my God, it's too harsh and all that stuff. I mean, it's not the smoothest riding car I've ever had, obviously, but it wasn't really about that. And also I had the benefit of working at GM at the time, so we had one available to me to like hop in and drive around the proving grounds for a little while and make sure, like, yeah, this is what I want, and it is what I want. It's what I got. And you can't even, for somebody who hasn't driven it or experienced what it's like to hear it crank up for the first time or row through the gears. And honestly, never in my life, I've never been a manual driver. I just don't care to do it. I'm not one of those, like, I have to row my own gears. It's a total package car, right? So if it had come with an automatic, I would have still bought it. The manual meant nothing to me. It was the total package of the car. If the manual makes this car good when you're driving it, because you're, especially on the racetrack, and you have to learn how to heel toe in it, and because there's no rev match, even though I have the aftermarket rev match installed now, but for many years I didn't have it till last year. So for many years you have to learn how to rev match, and the car kind of punishes you if you get it wrong. But when you get it right, it's like it's the best feeling ever. And I'm not a professional race car driver. I'm an enthusiast. I'm not too shy to say that I'm a pretty good driver. I'm just gonna leave myself at pretty good. I'm not the best. I'm not the worst. But even being a medium level driver, I guess, and some of the upper level, I don't know how to say it, but the upper level drivers that have driven these cars, that you throw everything that you possibly can at this car on the racetrack, and it just it hooks and goes. It doesn't complain about it. It doesn't, you have to, I've spun the car once, and man, it was almost like trying to spin. I was working the car so hard, and it finally spun out. But other than that, you throw everything you possibly have at this car, and nothing, it just kind of shrugs it off and laughs at you and says, what else? Is there more? Can we do another session? It's an amazing car. Everything about it is amazing. you know, we've had our bumps and bruises along the way. You know, we rode out a hurricane together one time. You know, we've been trapped in a snowstorm together. It's been buried in snow before. You know, it traveled back to Texas with me. I've driven it from Texas up to the Smoky Mountains. I've driven it from and back, and I've driven it from Texas up to the Rocky Mountains and back, and it's just the perfect car. And I've driven a lot of things, and I had the pleasure of, like I said, working at General Motors. I've driven everything there was to drive, performance cars or otherwise. You know, I did competitor cars from time to time. I've driven V-Series cars. I've driven Corvettes. I've driven, you know, a ZR1. I've driven all the way up to, you know, the earlier C8s in development. You know, I've driven so much stuff, and I've owned quite a few Camaros at this point, and there is nothing like this car, and there will be nothing like this car for probably, at this point, the rest of my life. You know, obviously within my price range. I'm sure a GT3 RS is an amazing car, but I hope I don't sound cliche, but a car like this, you actually have to drive it at some point. I mean, there's PTM modes and everything, but you still do have to drive this car. You know, there's no active aero, there's no, you know, like I said, it's not an automatic. And up until last year, you know, you were heel towing the whole time. You were basically in control of everything there was to be in control of, with the exception of, you know, one or two things. It's a bare bones car, and that's what the car is, and that's one of the things that makes the car great. It pulls out for days. I mean, you almost feel bad for it. You end up shifting just because you're like, man, I feel like, you know, this thing would rev out forever and ever and ever if I let it. I mean, matter of fact, at some of the longer straights, you're basically tacking it out as far as you can go. You know, say a Road Atlanta or something, and like you said, it just begs for more. I don't know what else to say. You know, and I live in Texas, and it's super hot during the summer at track days. You know, it's a pretty unforgiving environment for cars, and just never gives up. You know. This car meant so much to me when I got it, and it means so much to me now. I mean, some of the things that I got to experience, you know, being with my friends and going up to the Rocky Mountains, and we took this, you know, some of the most amazing drives that I've ever been on. You know, visiting places on Route 66, you know, stuff you see in magazines and whatever, you know, that you never thought you'd get to go to because it's all the way in Colorado. You know, we went to the Smoky Mountains, and me and my friend just decided that we're going to drive all the way home that day. You know, we spent 22 straight hours in the car and never wavered, and really it's not even, you know, for all the griping on magazine reviews and stuff, like it didn't even bother me. I I'd do it again tomorrow. I really would. But that being said, you know, all things unfortunately have to come to an end, and I made the decision that I was going to sell it, and it's genuinely not because of COVID or, you know, the COVID prices, or I want to try to put this thing on Bring a Trailer and get all kinds of money for it, or, you know, screw somebody over and the car is only worth, you know, $45,000 and I want to take them for $55,000 or whatever, it's got a wheel that's got some rash on it, and I painted over it, and it's got a little bump in the back where my nephew loves the car. He bumped into it with like his Power Wheels, acting crazy driving around, and up until about a week ago it had a dent in the fender from a tree branch during the hurricane that we rode out. It just has it had a lot of little memories attached to it, and a lot of big memories attached to it. But like I said, not really unfortunately, but unfortunately, I guess, like you said, all things have to come to an end, and I kind of just made a decision about a month ago that I was going to get rid of it, and not because I don't love the car, I do, and I legitimately thought this is the one that I would keep forever, but it just kind of got to the point where being a low production car, a lot of the parts are discontinued, and some of the places that I go, road trips, and it's not one of those cars that sits in my garage and collects dust. I drive it. I drive the hell out of it every chance I get. And it just got to the point where parts are discontinued. You have to cruise eBay for stuff now. And I kind of always had that fear, like it would destroy me if I were driving and got into a car accident and my car got totaled because they can't fix it, or God forbid, you go to the racetrack and things happen and you total it, right? And or just really anything, I could run over an armadillo and knock the front splitter off of it. Well, those aren't available anymore. You have to shop for the cheap knockoff aftermarket ones, and you could bend a wheel and there's no more wheels. You got to aftermarket, and you can't buy one of the LS7s anymore out of the catalog. Just all the little things that I decided, like, I think it's time that we just move on. And I did order a 23 SS 1LE, which I kind of consider, depending on the driver, depending on the racetrack, obviously, to be fairly similar, close in comparison to a Z28. It doesn't have the same amount of power. It's a little lighter. I did order, an automatic. I don't know, I always liked them. I always thought pound for pound they were one of the best cars you can buy, and I enjoyed driving them when I worked at GM, and I thought I would get one, and the opportunity came up. Despite all the craziness in the market right now, I did find one. Actually, a friend found one for me, and we ordered it, and it should be here in about a month or so. But it's at the same time, like you said, all the memories and how I got this car and what I've done while I had it and what it means to me. It's sad. It's going to be tough to get rid of it. It is tough, to even talk about getting rid of it. It was a long process, and but deep down inside, I think I'm making the right decision. And I genuinely hope that whoever buys this car after I get rid of it, I'm selling it to one of the wholesalers in Texas. They buy cars. Hard to see around that curb. They buy cars. They offered me a fair offer on it. Like you said, I wasn't trying to get some outrageous amount of money for the car. I wanted, fair value, not COVID pricing notwithstanding, I guess. And they got there, and they're gonna come pick it up, and it'll be tough watching it leave my driveway. Nobody's ever driven this car other than me, And it'll be tough to watch somebody roll off with it for sure. But, you know, move on, get to the next car. And like I said, I hope if you're out there, you're watching this, if you are the brand new owner of 2015 Z28 number 241, I hope you get in touch with me at some point, because I would love to know that you're driving and enjoying it as much as I did. And, you know, you have a blast in it. I highly recommend you take it to the track and enjoy it. You know, it's been a great car for me. It really does truly mean the world to me, but you know, I'm sure I'll enjoy the next one just as much. Maybe not just as much, but I'm sure I'll enjoy the next one too. Yeah, that's it, man. Like, you know, I just wanted to kind of hop on here and kind of send a final goodbye. I knew this would be a tough drive for me, but the wholesaler guy actually needed me to drive a few extra miles, so the odometer would match what I told him it was, which I was guessing at the time, but no problem. I don't have any issue. I don't take issue with getting one last drive in it. I've actually been avoiding it kind of at all costs because I knew it would be tough for me to do. But now that I'm here and kind of hearing it one last time and thumbing through the gears one last time, I'm glad I'm doing it. If you're on the fence, you know, about buying a Z28, I would say now's the time. You know, the price is increasing every day on these cars, and to me, it's not a car that I can't imagine somebody like regretting their purchase by buying one. So if you're on the fence, you know, here's your sign. You should definitely get one. The noise, the way the car drives, you know, the active engagement from the car, you feel, you know, I know it's a detriment for some people, but you do feel everything in the road. But I mean, that's kind of what I look for in a car, you know, not a whole lot of frills, but it's kind of you and the machine, right? And you and the machine is definitely the type of car that I like. I think in the 1LE I'll probably lose some of that, obviously. You know, it's newer, it does have more frills inside or whatever, but you know, at the same time, it's still a very good car. It's not ever going to be quite the excitement this car will be, but it's a fantastic car, and I'm sure I'm gonna enjoy driving it just as much as I used to for work. But yeah, like I said, that's pretty much it. Just kind of wanted to come in here and you know, say my final goodbyes to the car, to my first adult purchase that I ever made, of buying what at the time was my dream car. You know, it still is, and who knows, maybe the car will make it back to me someday. That would be cool. But you know how those stories go. That's a lot of people want that to happen, and it never does. You know, I'm always looking for my old car, to get my old car back, and you never find it, but that's okay. All I really care about, you know, it's not really my place to tell people what to do with their stuff. It's their stuff. But deep down inside, all I would really care about is that whoever has it is out driving it, enjoying it. I bought it certified used at 3,000 miles, and we're coming up on 44,000 miles now, so I put, say, 40,000 miles on it myself over the course of 6 years. So I hope the next person enjoys it for the next 40 to 50,000 miles, and take it to the track and run it through the mountains, drive it around, just enjoy it. I hate the thought of it sitting in a garage somewhere collecting dust, but that's also a possibility, I guess. It is what it is, but pretty much too dark in here to keep recording anyway. I tried turn on the dome light, but I think all that would do is blind me. Yes, so I won't do that. But anyway, that's it. That's all I had to say. If you're out there, whoever you are, whoever ends up with this car, I hope you enjoy it.